Okay, I'm gonna get started, and my name is Ms Pam, and I'm here from the kids table, as you can see. But the difference is Elena could not be with us today, so she asked if I would come in and make breakfast tacos with you instead. Now, as I say, my name is Ms Pam, and I've cooked with the kids at the kids table for 5 years now. So hopefully I've met some of you before, but if I haven't, welcome, and I'm glad you're here. I'm using my iPhone, so the camera is a little bit smaller than normal, so that's why you see me slouching down. But hopefully we're going to have a good enough view so that you can see everything that we're doing. So today we are making something called breakfast tacos. Okay, now to make that, I'm going to go quickly over the ingredients that you're going to want to have on hand. Okay, of course, the first thing you're going to need are these guys. You're going to need some eggs, all right? And for this recipe, it serves 4 people, so we're going to be cooking 4 eggs, just 1 egg per person. It's going to be a scrambled egg, okay? So you're going to need to have some eggs. And then the other part that's delicious in these tacos is we also put together some seasoned black beans, all right? So hopefully you have, here these little guys are, you have some black beans, all right? I just used some in a can, but you certainly could also take a dried black bean and soak it overnight and then simmer it for about an hour, and then you have a really, really delicious black bean. But I went the easy way today. I went for the dried beans instead. Okay. And then as far as the toppings go on our tacos, I wanted to show you what I have. We are going to be slicing some of these. We are going to be slicing some Roma tomatoes today to put on our tacos, as well as we are going to use some avocado slices for our tacos, and a little garlic, and some green onion. We're only going to use the tops of the green onion, so I'm going to show you what I would do with the bottoms, all right? And then finally, I don't know if this is in the recipe or not, but I just happen to have some, and I do love it. It's a herb. It's a little wilted right now, but it's called cilantro, okay? So we're also going to use some cilantro. At least I'm going to use that as a final garnish on my tacos, okay? So the next thing that I'm going to do is remind everyone, before we start cooking, particularly you young chefs out there, we want to make sure we have clean hands, okay? So please wash your hands before we start cooking. And also you'll notice I've got my hair back in a ponytail, because there's nothing worse than finding a random hair that fell into your food. So whenever you're cooking in the kitchen, particularly you young kids, make sure to have clean hands and make sure to have your hair pulled back, or maybe have a cap on or something like that. So why doesn't everyone go take a minute, get your hands washed? I'm going to adjust my camera 1 more second, and then we'll get back to cooking. I'm going to see if we can get that camera a little further away so you can have a better angle and I'm not hunching down trying to see you guys. Hang on. I don't know if that's better. I'm just going to hunch. It's okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our eggs started, okay? So what everyone needs to use for that is we're going to need a bowl to mix our eggs in, and we're going to get out our 4 eggs, okay? So for the youngest chefs, if you have not cracked an egg yet before, I'm going to show you how I like to do it. I don't actually crack it on the rim of the bowl, because sometimes that forces the shell to go into the egg and it's harder to get out. So it's easier if you just crack it on the table and listen with your ear for a little crack sound. I hear the sound. I've got the crack, so what I do is I put my thumbs in that crack and I open it up like a hinge and drop it right into the bowl. Okay, so we're going to do that for all 4 of our eggs. All right, so let's go ahead and get 4 eggs cracked into the bowl. A little more. Here's 2. Here's 3. That's a small one. And then, of course, here's number 4. Okay. Oops, but you know what happened? I got a little bit of shell into my bowl. So this broken eggshell is an amazing magnet. What you can do is use it to go in there and dig that shell out of your egg. It's funny how it just sticks to the broken shell. So go ahead, and now that we have those eggs in the bowl, my hands got a little bit gooey from the raw egg, and raw egg can give you a stomach ache. It's also actually called salmonella, so it can make you a little sick. So whenever our young chefs are cooking, we always want to make sure to go wash our hands and rinse them off and get all that raw egg off of your hands before we keep cooking. So I'm going to do that, and you all do the same. Okay, so now when you make a scrambled egg, it's always nice to add a little bit of milk into the egg because it makes it a little fluffier, okay? So what I'm gonna do is you put in 1 tablespoon of milk per egg that you're using, all right? So I've got my tablespoon measure here, and this is great. Once again, if you've got a little one, they can hold the spoon for you nice and level over the bowl, and then you can go ahead and pour it in. I'm going to do that 4 times because I have 4 eggs. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So that's perfect. And then all you need to do is maybe add a pinch of salt to the eggs. Not too much, but just a little pinch. Okay? Kiddos, you can just take your pincher fingers. These are your pincher fingers. Take a pinch and do just maybe 1 or 2 little pinches. You can always add more salt later, but you can't take it out. So that's why you don't want to put in too much right away. Okay. So as I say, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take my whisk and I'm going to stir up these eggs till they're nice and fluffy. All right, I'm going to break up those yolks and then I'm going to whisk. And you'll notice I always hold the bowl with the one hand and use the whisk with the other, because you don't want that bowl to randomly slide off the table and you have a beautiful egg mess on your floor. So you'll see what's happening is the yolks, which are the yellow parts, and the whites, which are the clear parts, are getting all mixed together. So you should have a beautiful, dreamy yellow, pale yellow color inside your bowl by now. All right, so let's just give it a few more whisks. And then we're going to be able to cook this first. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to cook everything in just one pan so I don't have so much cleaning up to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cook my eggs in the pan, and then I'll take them out of the pan, and then I'm going to go ahead and make the black beans in there next. And you can do that if you want, or you can get 2 pans dirty. Your choice, your call. Okay? So what we have here is, I just got a burner right here to make my life easier so you all can see me cooking. Okay? And the first thing I'm going to do is get some heat going on that pan. All right? And the recipe, of course, says you can use butter or a little bit of spray oil, whatever you would like in the pan. Personally, I love the taste of a little bit of butter on my eggs. So I'm going to go ahead, you see, just a little bit, not too much, maybe a half a tablespoon at the most. And I'm going to tap that into the pan. And now that the pan is warm, you're going to notice that that butter is starting to melt. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and just keep letting that melt in the pan. And with scrambled eggs, you don't want to make them cook at too high of a heat because it makes them browned, and nobody really likes a brown scrambled egg. And also it makes it more tough. So what I'm going to do is just gently move the butter around in the pan, and when I see that it's pretty well melted and pretty well coated in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my eggs in. All right, but I am turning the heat down to medium because I do not want to burn my eggs. Okay, so here we go. You hear that sizzle? Yep. There we go. So we've got our eggs And if you look at them, you can see they're starting to sizzle just a little bit around the edges. Well, hello, Kristen Rayon. How are you? It's nice to see you. So anyhow, we're going to go ahead and we are going to be moving the eggs around in the pan. And you see, I'm not stirring it a lot. Sometimes when people make scrambled eggs, they stir it the whole time. And what happens is then the eggs tend to get stuck to the pan, and that's how you get a really, really dirty, gummy, eggy pan when you're finished. So this way, if you only stir it occasionally, it almost gives the eggs a chance to kind of seal up so they won't stick to the pan as much. So I'm going to do that again. Right? And you can see that they are really starting to come together. Can you see that? They're really starting to come together. And hopefully they're not sticking too much. Wow, these are cooking fast. These little birders are small but mighty. They cook very, very quickly. Okay, so let's just go ahead and let's keep stirring them occasionally, but not too often, until all of that wetness has disappeared. And you're going to notice how fluffy and beautiful these eggs look, I should say, not egg yolks, eggs, the whole macaroni. They look great. Okay. So while these are finishing off, I'm going to get a little bowl to put them in, and then we're going to just set those to the side and let them stay warm while we're cooking the rest of our food. Okay? Hey Gavin Green. I've got some family coming in today. It's kind of fun to cook with you folks. So anyhow, we're going to take these eggs out of the bowl, out of the pan. We're going to stick them right into the bowl. Make sure to get the fire off. Okay, so my pan got a little bit dirty, but I'm going to go ahead and scrape it. And I'm going to try to get all that egg off of there. Not too bad. Let's stick them right into the pan. Okay, so we are going to be using these beautiful eggs in our tacos in a little bit. So for now, you can cover them with some foil or a cover of any kind just to keep them warm so that when it's time for tacos, they will be hot and they will be ready. So let me get mine covered and I'll be right back. You can do the same with yours. If anyone is cooking along with me and if I'm going too fast or you need extra directions, please just type a little message into the message box and I will make sure to answer you, okay? Just a second. Okay, we're back in action. So I hope everyone got their eggs scrambled and set aside in a bowl. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to work on seasoning our black beans, okay? So black beans are awesome. They have a lot of protein in them. So if you don't eat a lot of meat, maybe, a good way to get plenty of protein in your diet is to also eat beans. And one of my favorite beans are these little black guys, these little black beans, okay? They're really tasty, and you know, they're good for all sorts of, a lot of Mexican dishes. You know, they're very good for tacos, for salsas, You can even use them in a refried bean. So if you want to taste one before we do any of the seasoning to it, now would be a good time to pop one in your mouth to my little chefs and see how they taste, okay? Yep, they're pretty good. Pretty good, but they're gonna be better. And you know how we're gonna make them better? We are going to saute them with a little bit of garlic and a little bit of a spice called cumin and salt. Pretty simple, but it's gonna make them even tastier. So let me show you how I would use the garlic. What I've done here, this is called a head of garlic. You see, it's the whole, oh my, it's the whole thing, and it's really big. There's a bunch of, inside of this, if you peel it, there's a bunch of cloves. That's what the individual ones are called. So what I've done is I've taken a clove of garlic and I sliced it into a few little slices, like so. And then what I'm going to use is my favorite tool from the kids' table, and that's a chopper. I'm going to take my chopper and I'm going to use the board and I'm going to slowly cut the garlic pieces into little strips. Okay? Always bend your fingers back. That's called a bear claw, all right? That's what protects your fingers from getting cut when you're chopping. So you're going to go ahead and do that, and then you're going to pretend that this chopper is now a bunny rabbit, and you are going to have it hop all over your garlic to make it nice and small. This is called mincing. When you cut something really small, it's called mincing. So do you see what I'm doing? I'm just going over and over and over, and I'm going to chop up my garlic. You guys to do the same thing with your choppers or your knife, whatever you happen to be using. Just be very careful if you're a young chef to not get that hand in the way so you won't get cut. Okay, so let's see. Do you see what's happened? My garlic is now very tiny. Those little pieces are called a mince because garlic has such a strong flavor to it. You don't want to ever eat a really big chunk of garlic because you would notice it's kind of spicy, all right? It almost would burn your mouth a little bit, and we do not want that to happen. So we're going to have our garlic minced, and we're going to be putting that into our pan to saute. But first, what I'd like you to do is get out a half of a cup of beans, okay? Now the beans should be rinsed. First you drain all the juices out of the can, and then you rinse them under a colander, so you just have some nice, plain, clean black beans to be using. You don't want them in all that sauce, all right? So what you'll do is you take those beans that you have hopefully rinsed and have them in a jar, and I want you to add a little bit of salt, okay? Now this time, we're gonna use our pincher fingers again to measure out the salt, all right? So what I have, these are my pincher fingers, my friends. Sometimes we call them the baby shark, okay? I think you've seen that. So we're going to take a few pinches of salt. I think I'm going to do 3. 1, 2, and 3, and put that on the beans. And then next, I'm going to take a little bit, 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is a super small. That might be your smallest spoon that you have in your collection. 1/8 of a teaspoon of cumin is what we're going to add, okay? So when you're measuring, you don't want your spices to be heaping over the spoon. That's not very accurate, okay? So it's better to use your finger and to go right over the spoon's edge. And then you're gonna have a perfectly level 1/8 of a teaspoon of cumin. And you're gonna add that to your beans. All right? And once you've done that, I'd like you to get out your wooden spoon, and I would like you to stir the beans and the salt and the cumin together, okay? Don't add the garlic yet. We're gonna cook the garlic first. So we're only working with the black beans, the salt, and the cumin so far, okay? And this is only a half a cup of beans because you don't just need that many in your breakfast tacos, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna stir that up and make it sure it's nice and mixed. And then we have the ingredients prepared for our black beans. We have our garlic and we have our black beans that have been seasoned. So once again, my pan is just a little bit dirty, so I'm going to just scrape off the last of those egg flakes, and I'm going to discard those. I'll be right back. And now I'm going to heat up my skillet one more time. Okay, so I'm going to get it locked, and I'm going to get it lit. And can you see that blue flame down there, my friends? That means it's going to get hot. Okay, so this is something that an adult should be doing, or at least an older child. We don't want little ones to be using this alone. Okay, so now that we have that, this time we're going to put a little bit of oil in the pan rather than butter. Okay, at the kids' table we use a special oil. It's called a sunflower oil, and you can use any neutral oil. And what that means is it doesn't have a really strong flavor. Like an olive oil has a pretty strong flavor. You probably don't want to use that. And also olive oil burns a little bit sooner. So we're going to use sunflower oil, but you could also use canola oil. That would be perfect, or even a grapeseed oil would be good. So once you get that pan heated and that oil is getting warm, the next thing you're going to do is add the garlic into the pan, and you are going to hear a sizzle. I see a little bubble. It's going to start to get warm. Okay? Do you hear the sizzle? I can. What we're doing right now is something called sauteing the garlic. And that word is a French term which means to hop. Okay? And if you look really carefully in that pan right now, you are going to notice that those little tiny pieces of garlic are actually starting to hop in the oil. Okay? We are sauteing. So there is a new culinary word for all of my young chefs. We have learned that sauteing means to hop, and that is what we're doing right now. So garlic has a pretty high sugar content in it, which means it can burn pretty quickly. So you don't want to cook it for too long. After probably just about a minute now, you might notice that the garlic is starting to get brown, all right? And you probably can smell that garlic, okay? That garlic, I think, is one of my favorite aromas in the kitchen. So now it's time to add those seasoned black beans into the pan. Hear that sizzle? Okay. So these beans will not need to cook for too long. I would say we should put them down onto a low simmer. Let's check the fire. A nice low, gentle simmer, and we are just going to let these cook away for a few minutes while we get ready for our next step. Okay? So I'm going to set this to the side. And then it's time for us to talk about all of the delicious toppings that we're going to put on our pizza. All right, let me show you. I showed them to you in the full form, right? I showed you we have tomatoes for our tacos. We have avocado for our tacos. We have some fresh green onion. And we have some rather wilted cilantro. Okay? So what we're going to do now is our adults probably need to get out a chef's knife to prepare these ingredients for the kids. Because when we're cooking with kids, we do something with the tomato is we cut it into a wagon wheel. Okay? That makes it much easier for the kids to cut. All right? So if you're an adult at home, why don't you get out about 4 wagon wheels of tomato for the kids? And then you're going to want to take your butcher's knife around, your chef's knife, around the avocado, and you're going to make some slices. Okay? Do you see what I have? There's the pit. There's the beautiful green fresh avocado. And you're going to make about 4 slices for your little chefs to cut with. Okay? Because this is 4 servings today. So we'll each put 1 slice of avocado onto it. Okay? Then the other thing that we're going to be working with is our onion. And we are only going to use the top of the onion in our tacos. But I'll talk about that in a minute. I think we should start preparing our tomatoes and our avocados first. All right? So if you have an avocado, all right, we don't want to eat that outside, that peel. So the first thing you want to do is take your hand, take your fingers, and gently peel back the skin of your avocado. Okay, so we're going to do that on all 4 of our slices. Okay. Then you can just set those aside. But take a minute to go check out your beans to see how they're doing, okay? Mine are just really gently sizzling away over here. They're not burning, which is good. They're looking a little bit juicy. That garlic is a little bit browned. And they're looking pretty tasty. I almost think a few more minutes and I can call the beans done. Because really they're already cooked enough. So they don't need to cook. It's more like you just want those seasonings to kind of cook in with the flavor of the beans. Okay? So now back to avocados. We are going to take our chopper again, and we're going to work on 1 piece of avocado at a time, all right? So you put your avocado down on the board, like so, okay? If you have a chopper, what you want to do, see the longer end and the shorter end? You're going to hold that chopper in the hand that you draw or write with. I'm right-handed, so that's the hand I hold it in. And then when I'm chopping, that short end I keep towards my tummy and the long end goes away. With this hand, I call it my helping hand, but I bend it into a bear claw and that protects my fingers from getting cut. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut my avocado into nice little pieces. Okay? It should cut really easily, almost like butter. It's so soft. All right? So let's go ahead and cut all of our avocado into nice little bite-sized pieces. Okay, I've got 2 done. Work on number 3. And work on number 4. Okay. I'm officially turning my beans off. I'm calling them cooked. And I'm going to put them back in the bowl that I had them in originally, just so that they won't be too hot when it's taco time. I don't want anybody to burn their mouth. Okay. And I'm going to get this burner out of our way. Okay. Now, here we are back. We have our avocados all cut. And if you want, you can just arrange all of your toppings. We can just put them on the board so that when it's time to build the taco, everything will be there. So the first up will be our avocados. Then what we're going to do is work on our wagon wheel tomatoes. All right? These. So once again, when I'm cutting a tomato with the kids, I usually cut across first, like so. So I'm cutting it in half. And then I'm going to cut these pieces probably into 3 or 4 more pieces each. So we'll have a lot of little nice small pieces of avocado. Okay? So go ahead and give them a cut. Sometimes that skin of the tomato is a little tough, so you might have to use like a sawing motion to get through the skin. Okay? And then wipe it over to the side as you cut it. Okay? So we're going to just keep cutting our tomatoes into nice small pieces. Okay. So does everyone have their tomatoes cut? Are we in good shape? I think it's time to work with our green onion next. Okay? So the green onion, as I said, we're not going to eat this bottom part, but I am going to do something cool about that. If you cut the bottom off, and if you put this into a little glass of water, and leave it maybe in the windowsill in your kitchen. In about a week, you're going to notice that the bottom roots have been growing, and out of the very top, you're going to get new green onion growth coming out. So then, the next time you need a little bit of green onion, you don't have to run to the store. You're just going to go to your kitchen, and you're going to be able to cut it yourself. So if you feel like it, save the bottom of that onion, put it in a glass of water, and then you can grow that at home. Okay? So I'm going to set that to the side. And then we're going to start working with our green onion pieces. Okay? Now, if you have a really little chef at home who's not too good with their scissors yet, you certainly can tear this. Okay? It's really easy to tear into little pieces, like so. But if your kids are maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4, they probably could enjoy practicing their scissor skills. And they could get out a little scissors and they could cut them, okay? So when I teach the kids how to cut, all I do is I say put 2 fingers in the one hole and just your thumb in the other, okay? And then they hold the onion and they just practice open and close, open and close, open and close. So you can just keep practicing making some really, really nice tiny rings of green onion. Do you see how beautiful they look? Nice and tiny little rings. So go ahead and take a minute to cut your onions into tiny rings. You can even double it up if you want, if you're doing this alone, if you don't have an eager little 3-year-old helping you. Okay? So let's go ahead and keep cutting. Down to my last piece of green onion. Okay. So here I have it. I have my cutting board, and my toppings are my avocados, I have my tomatoes, and I have my green onions. So those are the toppings so far that we have. Okay. The other one that I mentioned was this sad little wilted piece of cilantro. Okay, I just love the taste of cilantro. Some people actually think it tastes kind of soapy and they don't care for it. It's kind of funny. It's like it's a genetic thing. Some people just have a really adverse opinion of cilantro. I, on the other hand, am one of those lucky souls who does not. So I'm going to tear up my cilantro just with my fingers. You don't even need to use your scissors. Just take those leaves off of the stem and just drop them onto your board. Okay? So let's go ahead and do that. Smell your fingers. I just love that smell. That cilantro, it's just like so fresh. Okay. So now it looks like we have everything except for one very important ingredient, our cheese. Okay, so today, let me see, where did I put it? I have a nice chunk of cheddar cheese. I think I kept it in the fridge so it would stay chilly enough. I'll be right back. I'm going to go get my cheddar cheese. Okay, there it is. This is about 2 ounces, which should be enough for the 4 tacos that we're going to make. This actually is called a white Vermont cheddar. And what I was surprised to know, I don't know if you've noticed, sometimes you see cheddar cheese that's orange, and sometimes you see cheddar cheese that's white. Usually cheddar cheese that's orange is from Wisconsin, and if it's white, it's often like an East Coast cheese. The only difference is they actually put a coloring into cheddar cheese in some areas to turn it orange. It's a natural color, but it is like a food dye, and so that's why you're going to find some cheddar cheese that is orange versus some that's white. Okay, but today we're going to use this white cheddar. All right, and if you have a grater, I have the world's tiniest grater because the kids' table specializes in the world's tiniest tools. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to need to find the rough side of your grater. When you have kids around, I'm always telling them, you said run your finger across it and find the bumpy side. That's the side that you're going to use to grate your cheese on versus this side is smooth. So go ahead, take the bumpy side, leave it facing up, put it on an angle on your board, and then I hold the cheese in the same hand as I hold my grater, in my strong hand. And then I'm just going to push it down the grater until I have all of my cheddar cheese grated. Okay? So go ahead and get to work on grating your cheese. Spin it around a little bit. Sometimes it gets so filled up it looks like it's gonna get squished under the grater, so it's always nice to have just a little spare bowl. So as you're grating, just keep grating it and adding it to the bowl until before you know it, you're gonna have all of your cheese grated. More to the bowl, and we're almost there. Okay, get all my cheese in there. So I have a pretty good size bowl of cheese, which we're going to be using. And now would be a really good time before we start to assemble our tacos, if we start to just clean up in general. Just take some of our dirty dishes and maybe put them in the sink. Kids, if you're here, you can like wipe down the table for your family so you can make it a little bit cleaner for them to be eating at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pick up my tools. I don't need my chopper, I don't need my scissors, I don't need my grater, and I don't need my spatula anymore. So I'm going to put that in the sink, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to bring out our tortillas, and I'm going to show you how I like to cook them. While we're at it, I'm going to get a couple serving spoons. I'll be right back. Okay, so we like to use corn tortillas at the kids' table just because, you know, it's a gluten-free. It has a lot of natural flavor in it. That corn really gives it kind of a nice sweet flavor, and it gives it, I think, a little more tooth, a little more texture to your tacos. So, but they're even better. I mean, these are fresh right now, but they're even better when you toast them over the open burner. Or sometimes people wrap them and put them in the oven, or they even microwave them for a little bit with a damp cloth. But this is my favorite way to warm a tortilla. So I'm going to show you. What you'll want to do is you're going to get your burner started, or your stove, of course. Most of you are working off stoves, not just burners. So you get that fire started, okay? And you don't need oil or anything like that. What you're going to do is you're going to use your tong, and we're going to just set it over the burner, okay? And then you're going to flip it. So you just watch, and you're going to notice it's going to puff up a little bit. All right, you can almost see it growing a little bit, and then turn it over. And you see what's happening? You get a little bit of a char on your taco, okay? So we're going to go ahead and do that again. and maybe one more time. So they're getting nice and toasty, and you can actually smell the flavor of that corn. It gets richer and better as it warms, all right? So once you have one done, you can set that aside on your board. And I'm gonna make 2 today for my breakfast, all right? You guys should have enough. You could make 8 tortillas is usually what we're suggesting here. Okay, I'm gonna keep warming it and keep flipping it. Don't ignore it or it will get burnt. Okay, beautiful, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn off that fire and I'm gonna put that out of my way. And now it's taco time, okay? So what we're gonna do, take our tortilla and put it on the plate. I'm gonna be extra fancy. I'm gonna load 2 at once, okay? And I'm gonna put them just like this on the plate. You see that? And the first thing I'm gonna do is take some of my delicious scrambled eggs that we made at the start of class and put a few right there down the middle on each taco. Okay? Got some in each one. Okay, then it's time to get some of those black beans that we cooked, all right? So those looking pretty tasty. We're just gonna sprinkle a few of those onto each one. All right. So you see here, I've got my beans and I've got my eggs on my taco so far. Then we get to pick which toppings we like, except I have another couple other additions that you might want to add. Aside from all of these beautiful fresh veggies and cheese, I also have Greek yogurt and salsa, okay? Now, maybe some of you haven't tried using Greek yogurt before as a substitute for sour cream. And you know, truthfully, I didn't do that very much either until I started working at the kids' table 5 years ago. And then I discovered like how delicious Greek yogurt works as a substitute for sour cream. It has more protein in it, so it's a little bit healthier for you. And it really does not taste very different. So we even sometimes use Greek yogurt as a substitute even when we're baking in some of our recipes. But today it's like a no-brainer to put it on our tacos, all right? So what I'm gonna do next is I think I'm gonna put my cheese on next because I want my cheese melting with those warm beans and that warm eggs. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of that on. And then I'm gonna take some of my toppings. I don't know about you guys, but I love all the toppings, okay? So I'm gonna take some avocado and put it on there. On each one. Then I'm going to take some of the tomatoes and put them on next. Oh my goodness, this is going to be gorgeous. And then finally, I'm going to sprinkle my green onions on. And a few little pieces of the cilantro, those get on there too. Wow. All right, and then look at this. Is this like beautiful? My goodness. Finally, I'm gonna add just a little bit of salsa and I'm gonna add a little bit of Greek yogurt. And then it is time for lunch, okay? So I'm just gonna get in there with a little salsa to add. This is just a mild salsa, but you can certainly use spicy if you're that kind of folks, you know? That's good too. At the kids' table, we usually don't go really spicy just because most often kids don't like really spicy food, okay? So I got that on there. Now it's time for just a little Greek yogurt. Wow. And there you have it. I have beautiful, beautiful breakfast tacos. And I hope that you guys enjoyed. Well, there's Miss Emily. Hello, Miss Emily. I've noticed some friends popping in on the class today, and I really appreciate you guys coming in for class. I hope you enjoyed the class. We host Facebook Live classes every Wednesday from 11 to 12. Usually it's Miss Elena doing it over at the kids' table, but today she couldn't make it because it's her son's birthday. Woohoo! He's 18 today. And so she is celebrating his birthday with him, so I'm here today instead. But anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this class, and I hope you would come back again another week and see what we're cooking next. As I say, every week the menu changes, so it's always something new. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. Otherwise, I think I'm about ready to enjoy my taco. And I don't know if anybody cooked along with me today. I can't tell, but if you did, I hope you enjoyed your taco too. And you could even post a picture of it on Facebook. I would love to see what you made. It would be delightful. And I would be happy to comment on it or tag it on our page so other people can see what creative chefs you guys are. Okay? So in the meantime, it's a little bit early, but I have a feeling it's probably time to call it a day, unless anyone else has any questions at all. Any questions out there? I'll wait. I don't think so. Okay, I am going to call it a day, but thank you again for coming. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. And I hope you go ahead and try to make these delicious breakfast tacos at your house sometimes. They're really easy, and they're really fresh and good for you. So thanks again for coming, and I hope Miss Elena can see you again next week on Wednesday. Bye-bye now.